Please welcome Professor Andrew St George.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. What a terrific show, Eddie. Thank you so much for that. Really got my energy going. I wasn't doing the naked ironing, by the way, and anatomically it's very dangerous, whoever... Okay. I am going to talk for about 20 minutes about risk and resilience in these 5 places. On sea, land, on ice, which is where I'm heading in January and February, in teams, and in 2016. There's no audience participation in this, so we're going to stay in this hall. We're not going to any of those places. It'll be perfectly safe, so relax and enjoy a little bit of storytelling from the locality. This is the Battle of Navarino. It took place out here, the last sea battle under sail. They didn't realize it at the time. Proof that you're never quite certain that what you're doing for the first time might actually be what you're doing for the last time. Not only was it set out here, but some of these ships, you can see the Turkish ships, the Ottoman ships with the red flags, are not even under sail. They were in the harbor. Great battle, 1827, October, the battle for Greece. If you don't have a navy, you can't control Greece. Ottoman ships at harbor, the French, the Russians, and the Brits ready to do battle for the future of Greece. The Brits come in under some kind of subterfuge. The commander's got a brass band playing on the deck of the ship. Maybe that will fool the enemy that we're not going to blow them apart. So beware Greeks bearing gifts, beware Brits playing trumpets. The result, 3,500 dead and wounded. The point is that this is the most chaotic place you could wish to be, in the middle of a sea fight. Just imagine what's going on, the gunfire, the water, the cries of the wounded. I don't need to paint the full picture for you. But you won't find a more chaotic spot. Here's another one, further west. This is Trafalgar. Now, at Trafalgar, we have exactly that chaos. Utter chaos. We talk in business of chaos in quite anodyne terms. Oh, we're in a VUCA environment, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Here, it's all in one place. And the stakes are very high. If you get it wrong, unpleasant things will happen to you and your guys. So how might you prepare for this? The Navy, and of course there's Nelson here, who was responsible for the Allied fleets at Trafalgar, the Navy thinks very carefully about this. It's had a lot of practice, 400-odd years of doing exactly this, preparing for chaotic situations, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't, incorporating that into training, and then moving forward. So how does Nelson prepare for this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment? It's a place where you can make a decision not knowing what the outcome would be, where your information is uncertain, where your communications are at best complex. Try doing this, communicating with flags only. Where the outcomes will not necessarily be within even the range that you hope. Ambiguous. That's exactly like modern business. The rules have changed, and change in a battle environment is the only thing you can count on. So what does Nelson do? Here he is. He gathers his captains in the cabin of the Victory. You can go there yourself, down at Portsmouth, down at the reworked docks down there, and you can sit in the seat that Nelson sat in. He's got his captains round him. He does this 10 days before the battle. You can see them all gathered, and in that meeting, he sets out what he wants, how it's going to happen, the resources that are needed to make it happen, the contingency, the what if, and then the inspiration for his people. He doesn't have a chance necessarily to talk to these captains again before the battle, because it's a meeting that takes place off Cadiz. The battle itself, 10 days away. Nelson writes a memorandum from that meeting where he talks about committing to uncertainty. Something must be left to chance in a sea fight beyond all others. So don't worry if it doesn't go perfectly to plan. He doesn't say it's like skateboarding down a moving train, but in essence, that's what he means. Something must be left to chance. Nothing is sure in a sea fight beyond all others. This is where he lives. This is his working environment. I first found out about this meeting because I'd been asked by the second Sea Lord to write a book on naval leadership, to write the manual on leadership for the Navy. I don't get many calls from the second Sea Lord, and I guess you only turn one down if you're the first Sea Lord. So I took the call and I went down to see him in Portsmouth. Amazingly, the Victory, the cabin on the Victory, is his formal office. Doesn't use it, of course. It's full of tourists, full of people, I hope, who are going down to relive this Band of Brothers moment with Nelson and his captains. We met in a room that was a bit like a country house hotel. There was a piano in the corner, a few photographs here and there, but no staff. After a couple of hours, I said, James, where is everyone? Because I was expecting you to go down to see the head of the Navy. You're expected to see screens and telephones and wake up the president type, maybe Tom Cruise, maybe Gene Hackman will appear. You're not quite sure. He said, I'm paid to think. I delegate everything else that I can possibly delegate. He said, as a matter of fact, I don't have a phone. I scarcely have a notebook, kind of small notebook. I don't have a diary. If I'm late, it's their fault. I tried that at home once, by the way. But I do carry these three things with me. I carry my Navy ID, useful for getting into buildings. I carry my Admiral's hat, put that on, walk into a room, things are going to happen. It's the Admiral, people haven't met me, know that I'm in the room. And I carry this, and he brought out a plasticized version of Nelson's memorandum. On it, he'd read this and studied it. On it were the 5 elements that he used to counteract uncertainty, the 5 elements that were in Nelson's meeting. The intent. What does the boss want? The clearer that is, the better. The strategy. That could be up to you. As Nelson said to his captains, This is what I want. Up to you how you deliver it. The resources. These are the resources. We match the way to the means to the way. Contingency. And this is where uncertainty lives. In plan B, plan C, plan D, all the way down. And finally, inspiration. And that is the basis for what NATO and modern armed forces call mission command. In other words, delegated down, because a chaotic battle space will produce more uncertainty with more telling and more far-sighted consequences than you could possibly imagine. So Royal Marine in Afghanistan, making a tactical decision, will have strategic consequences. But that's the model. Daisy, could I have some water, please? That's the model that we're looking at. Thank you very much. And that was the basis for the book that I then produced. But underneath it all is this matter of inspiration, the relation you have with your people. Nelson had done it around the table with his captains. And it's the basis of everything. How does this work on land? Let's see, let's get right up to date. The first sentence of the cutting-edge training manual for the Army, developing leaders. Lives depend on it. So, there's a small prize for guessing the next word. Copy of the Navy Leadership Guide. Leadership, thank you. Let's have some guesses from the room. Leadership. 2 at least, you're going to split the prize. Inspiration, leadership. Any more? Courage. Example. All good, all good. Nothing, can't fault any of those. Another one? Okay. Dedication. Any advance on inspiration? Honesty. What's interesting about this is it's not love of country, but love for each other. And obviously it's a very special kind of love because it's the love that sustains, looks after, deep, deep level of emotional intelligence here, right at the heart of one of the fiercest training establishments you could wish to name. The Army doing always the last 50 yards in any combat situation. Very difficult place to be, and it's done through love. That should be telling us something really, really important. I promised you something on ice, and here it is. Anyone know what this is? It's Shackleton. Ernest Shackleton. I'd like you to imagine, you might need to close your eyes for this. I'd like you to imagine that you are, it's October 1915, 100 years ago to the month. You are in Antarctica. Your ship, the Endurance, is frozen in the ice. You are a party of 29 men, and you're not going anywhere. Not only are you not going anywhere, but the ship is being pressed by the ice. The rivets are popping. The planks are snapping. The hull is springing leaks. You're not going anywhere. You are 180 miles away from the nearest land, and you are 500 miles away from open sea. Risk and resilience. What are your risks? How resilient is Ernest Shackleton going to be in this situation? I was on a stage with Ed Hillary. He described himself as a beekeeper from New Zealand. We were talking about climbing, and I asked him who his favorite explorers were. He said, well, Scott, if you're measuring things, you move slowly. You get every snow depth, every piece of snow density, that's Scott. Fast and light, the man who beat Scott to the pole, Amundsen, that's the way to do it. But if it all goes wrong, you need this guy, Shackleton. So, what did Shackleton do in October 1915 to save his guys? First of all, he knows that there's going to be a long walk, 180 miles, dragging something in which they can then get onto the open sea. So they take the 2 lifeboats off the Endurance. They strip them down. They've got carpenters, all that kind of skill that's there. And that's another lesson. The right skills are needed at the right time. They strip them down, and they make them as light as possible. And Shackleton has the discipline of stripping everything down. So he walks to the side of the boat, and he empties his pockets. Gold watch, sovereigns. He takes 1 page out of the Bible and throws the rest of the Bible away, too heavy to carry. He gets the photographer, Frank Hurley, on whom the economic success of the expedition depends, to break the glass plates on which he's done the photographs. Only a few survived. There's another nice one of them playing football, actually, in front of the Endurance. Everyone else does the same. Shackleton then issues everyone in his party with 2 pairs of mittens, 6 pairs of socks, 2 pounds of tobacco, times have changed, dry goods, and any other necessaries. But they are running a low weight mission. They set off. Half a mile into the trip, Shackleton sends the first mate back for what? Another chance to win the book. Speak up? Well, some matches. You would hope, wouldn't you, that they would have matches, but yes? No. That's a reasonable suggestion. Rum? Yes. Always rum. Rum and the lash. Fantastic. Sorry? A compass. You'd hope that a Navy-trained guy would have a compass with them. You'd hope that they'd have rum. You'd hope that they would have matches. All perfectly reasonable. The rest of the Bible, dive down and get the Bible from the depths of the Weddell Sea. That's not far off. This banjo was signed by the crew when they survived. And why did Shackleton send back for it? Because that's a great leadership decision in uncertain times. Comfort for your people. Look after your people. He called it mental medicine. Mental medicine. And he can see beyond the next week. He can see beyond the next month. He can see the diet of penguins that stretches out for months ahead. He can see the 800-mile open sea journey where they have to navigate by the sun, which they only see 4 times in 6 weeks. by the way, incredible piece of professional skill in navigating. And he's looking after his guys. This is what we have in mind for January, starting up at the Falklands, top left, going down to where Shackleton got stuck, taking a yacht down by sea, obviously, and then tracing that journey from where Shackleton got stuck, heading northeast up to South Georgia. It's the great open boat journey that he did. And then crossing South Georgia, because he arrived, his navigation wasn't entirely perfect. He didn't get the right side of the island to get to the whaling station. So he landed the wrong side. So there were some mountains in the way, glaciers, ice. So you've done your boat trip, and then you've got to get out and ready yourself for a glacier crossing. So you take the nails out of the ship, out of the boat, and you put them in your boots, and you wrap up as warm as you can, and so on. And we're seeking to replicate that, not, I might add, in original clothing. That would be very uncomfortable, worse than naked ironing. But with a group of Royal Marines and Royal Navy adventurous training folk. And we're building that team at the moment. We're 2 years, it's a 2-year project culminating in the route that you see behind you. A lot of thinking goes into it, and a lot of team building goes into it, because this, the Southern Oceans, where 3 oceans meet, is a very, very uncertain place. Shackleton himself made it all the way to South Georgia and then was held off by a 90-foot wave in this tiny boat. He couldn't get ashore, had to wait out another storm, during which a larger vessel that was not far away went down, losing all hands. So these things are never clear, even when the end is in sight. So how do we build this team? We started with 50 volunteers from within the Navy. So these are people who are pretty gung-ho. They're quite capable, Royal Marines, Royal Navy from across the service, submariners, divers. They're used to a bit of adversity, and they're used to physical hardship and so on. And we've now narrowed those down to 12. At the same time, we have a control group of people who are within the Navy, who have not volunteered for the expedition, and they're just running for 2 years. We're just going to see if being in the Navy makes you any grittier, any more resilient. It may not. In this group of 50, now down to 12, we've tested them for cognitive failure, which is a sign of stress. You know, you walk into a room, you forget someone's name, or you can't remember something, or you can't find the right word for something. Quite straightforward, quite anodyne tests. But put together, there's a test for grit, a test for resilience, and so on. Put together, we'll be able to figure out what qualities those at the start of the survey had, which have carried them through to, we hope, success at the end. I can explain if anyone's interested in the technically the way one goes about that. But all I need to report to you now is that what's most startling about the research so far, about the findings so far, is that a real Boy Scout quality has emerged. What makes people perform really well in uncertain places, uncertain times in a group, is cheerfulness. It almost beggars belief, doesn't it? When you think about it, all you've got to be is cheerful. But then I say to you, would you follow a miserable so-and-so? And there's your answer. So how do you inculcate cheerfulness? How do you build cheerfulness in your people? We have a motto as part of the group. As we've done the various bits of training, we started in wet North Wales. We went to chilly Scotland to do the ice climbing phase. We started the sailing in the Solent. Then we went out to the western approaches. All the time, cheerfulness is important. We have a motto which is, don't learn to dance 10 minutes before the ball. And in building that capacity at the same time as building mental capacity, you have a winning combination. And that's how this team is getting readied for its big challenge. So here are 5 things to take home. You do it like Nelson, faced with unparalleled uncertainty. Nothing is certain in a sea fight, so make a plan. But commit to the fact that change is the only rule of the game. You can do it like the army. Do it with love. Know yourself, know your people, get to love them. You can do it like Shackleton with a banjo or any other musical instrument. That's fine too. Mental medicine. You can do it like my team, Antarctic Endurance 16. Don't learn to dance 10 minutes before the ball. Or you can do it with cheerfulness, and that works right the way up the scale. This is a piece of advice from Clemmy Churchill to Winston. A letter she wrote in June 1940. I hope you will forgive me if I tell you something that I feel you ought to know. One of the men in your entourage, a devoted friend, has been to me and told me there's a danger of your being generally disliked by your colleagues and subordinates because of your rough, sarcastic, and overbearing manner. It seems your private secretaries have agreed to behave like schoolboys, take what's coming to them, escape out of your presence, shrugging their shoulders. Higher up, if an idea is suggested, say at a conference, you're supposed to be so contemptuous that presently no ideas, good or bad, will be forthcoming. I was astonished and upset because in all the years I've been accustomed to all those who have worked with and under you, loving you, I said this is what I was told, and it was no doubt due to the strain. My darling Winston, I must confess that I've noticed a deterioration in your manner, and you are not so kind as you used to be. It is for you to give the orders, and if they are bungled, except for the king, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and the Speaker, you can sack anyone and everyone. Therefore, with this terrific power, you must combine urbanity, kindness, and if possible, Olympic calm. You used to quote, "On ne règne sur les armes que par le calme." I cannot bear that those who serve the country and yourself should not love as well as admire and respect you. Besides, you won't get the best results by irascibility and rudeness. They will breed either dislike or a slave mentality, and rebellion in wartime is out of the question. She signs off, please forgive your loving, devoted, and watchful Clemmy. Thank you very much.